Welcome back to Curse, Code, and Crown, a live play Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition podcast featuring a fully original world and campaign. I am the wizard Cronox, observer of time. Curse, Code, and Crown features our regular voiceover artists and improvisers, Laura Elizabeth as the Orcountant Eta, Tyler Hewitt as Makka Deathcap, and Ryan LaPlante as Duncan Danno, alongside our dungeon master, the incredible Tom McGee. So get ready for an adventure including thrills, chills, and hope for a brighter tomorrow. It's time for Curse, Code, and Crown!
Makka Deathcap has been put on the hot seat to speak in his own defense. Tyler, the player, has admitted he's nervous. Makka, the character, would never admit that, but probably is. And I gotta tell you, as the person playing Murdoch Truegood, she's real fucking nervous. So, Makka and Tyler, stand and deliver. It's your time, buddy. What do you do?
Makka will rise and I think kind of step forward to where Murdoch was kind of standing and delivering her defense. And I will look to the prosecutor and I will say,
what is your name?
Yeah, my name is Mowgli Branchsheath.
Mowgli Branchsheath?
Yes, attorney at law.
Mowgli, you say I am accused of impersonating an ambassador. Yes. This is...
Yes.
It is my understanding that I am the only one who returned from Orville. Is that correct?
Yes. We were expecting the return of our beloved Presidentia and our first blade, Chestnut, and yet here you are, the only one to return from an otherwise doomed expedition, where our beloved judge, and I'm sorry to bring this up, Your Honor, but where your beloved brother died in defense of Bleen. And he looks back to you.
That is true. He did die defending Bleen. There were many who died in Orville that day. I can tell you that I was directly approached to join this group to visit Orville. In truth, it has come to my attention that the potential cure for this blight may rest in Orville. I have with me, standing among some of you,
and I gesture up to Gwendolyn and Duncan and say,
citizens of Orville who witnessed the massacre firsthand, the attack on that kingdom on that day. They can vouch for my innocence, that I played no part in the deaths of our turtle brothers and sisters.
And
sitting amongst you is Gwendolyn, Princess of Orville, and her honor guard, a Dawnbreaker, one Duncan Danno.
And Mowgli will clear his throat and say,
very interesting, Makka. It's very good of you to point out for our esteemed and honored jury your your witnesses to the massacre.
and then he takes off his little glasses and does that like douchebag lawyer thing where he polishes them while talking.
Says, but I think it is worthy of note that the ambassadorship charges we've placed against you are actually in regards to your portrayal of one Ginkgo Longleaf at Sprongrek Fortress. The treason you committed elsewhere is a different matter. Yes.
In that case, I did impersonate Ginkgo Longleaf, and in doing so, uncovered a conspiracy to overthrow the local government of Sprongbreck and to subvert the democratic process that they carry out there. Yes.
And Ginkgo from the cheap seats just goes, "Yes, you douchebag. We were trying to do that." And just like sits down and drinks his wine with both hands. Murdoch stands up and just yells, "Objection, Your Honor!" And the judge is like, "Yes, we will not be considering the drunken ramblings of someone from the seats, but it would seem your client just admitted guilt, yes?" "Well, yes, sure. Yes, he did. I just don't like that people were talking." And then she sits back down and nods to you.
And
no.
I'll gesture to the bodies in the middle of the court and say,
this crime, the crime of robbing the cycle of its energy, this, I am as keen as you all to find the guilty party. I am ashamed to admit that while I did play a part in this, causing this blight, it was my exploitation by others that caused it. Those of you here today, are there any among you who saw me, visited me firsthand, face to face, seeking my services?
There's like some assorted mumbling and like no one's really saying much. And then to the surprise of all, Judge Hazel Kell raises her hand and says, "Yes, I sought your assistance. I was having trouble with my partner to conceive. Yes, you were of great assistance. This will have no bearing on the case, but it is worth noting."
Thank you.
And then slowly but surely, like hands start to raise, and finally, Murdoch's just like, "Come on, you motherfuckers! We all went, right?" And then like there's grumbling, and everyone's like, "Yeah, okay." And sure enough, Makka, and to you, I think it's worth noting that for you, it always seemed like you were treating a person because there'd always only be like one or two people showing up, but you did it for years, and so as kind of expected, almost everyone in the court raises their hand.
and he'll say,
I do not ask this to sway the judgment unduly, only to provide context. In my work, I require the decay, the transfer of energy to provide you the services you came to me for, the healing, the unguents, the salves. They came from the dead you brought me, that I treated and interred and returned to the earth.
There are some gasps. The court was not prepared to learn they'd been using corpse salves. So yeah, there's some shock and awe in the court. If there were flashbulbs, they'd be going right now for
that these bodies do not rot harms me as well. It is most distressing to the way of life I have come to live. So you see, this could not be my machinations, my doing. This flies in the face of Jossie's will.
And Mowgli starts nodding at that, and he just puts his little glasses back on his nose, and he stands up and he says, Mr. Deathcap, I'm glad you bring up Jossie.
we've had some troubles here of late with the Josians, a cult. Some call it a religious organization, others call it, but nevertheless, ones who have been spreading quite a bit of trouble throughout the land. We were unaware of
And he does the full air quotes, like,
Jossie, until you started preaching her will from your little hut in the swamp. So it would seem to me rather strange that your defense rests on the idea of a god that apparently only you have spoken to, and the only other adherents of whom are rabble-rousers, miscreants, and in some cases, if they are to be believed, murderers. I asked the court, should we fear the retribution of a god made up by a madman in the swamp? Or should we see what we are seeing right now, a charlatan who invented a whole system for us to believe in so that he could sell us corpse powder?
And Murdoch, at this point, does stand up and says, objection, bringing a different case. And the judge just kind of shakes her head and says,
you can sit down now. It is Makka Deathcap's time to speak. Yes.
And then she says that to both of them. Like, she says it to Murdoch first, but then also like glares over at Mowgli and says,
Mr. Branch Sheath, you know I appreciate your rhetorical ability, but do keep the conjecture to a minimum. This is Mr. Deathcap's time to speak.
And then she looks back to you and says,
make it good, Gravekeeper.
You speak of this cult of the Josians. They are a blight of another kind on Bleen. Yes.
And he like looks around the court for any kind of consensus.
oh yeah, there's not. Like,
Yeah.
people are, no one was thrilled about the Josians like running around causing a ruckus.
Then Makka will just say,
Yes, well, they are all dead now.
Gasps, whispers, court noise.
In seeking to investigate the case made against me, I came to learn that the Josians were committing atrocities, both of mortal laws and the laws laid out by Jossie herself. And so I saw to the work of putting them down permanently. The cult of the Josians is no more.
And Mowgli will step forward and say,
Be that as it may, Mr.
Silence,
Deathcap.
Mowgli.
and he raises both hands and just does that like lawyer walk away, be like, look how unreasonable this person is being. And honestly, the judge is like kind of nodding to you. And you can see like, although Mowgli isn't showing any cracks in his demeanor, he clearly lost that bout and is like just kind of doing a walk away, being like, oh, okay. I mean, I get, but everyone else in the room is kind of like, yeah, dude, shut up.
And Makka will kind of resume in saying,
in my investigations, I also attempted, with some help, to reconnect the Triton tribes in the waters below Bleen, their library that we would use to reestablish a connection. This is going down there, facing mutated beasts changed by the corruption, was dirty work. Flushing out cultists was dirty work. It would seem the consortium of Bleen is content to assign blame instead of doing the work of cleaning up its mess down in the library, the archives, I found writings speaking of changing and perverting my process for ushering the dead along and taking that energy and providing new life to the living. This process was sacred to me, and it was perverted and corrupted by those looking to profit. And in doing so, the corruption spread without my knowing. There may even be those of you here who came seeking my services under false pretenses, only to use the pure glamora that came from this process to create your much coveted Endara and spread it across the globe. This is the cause of the blight Bleen is now facing. This was the curse that the Presidentia herself pulled me out of my swamp to help resolve with the Kingdom of Orville. I am not the only one on trial today, Bleen. There is much fault to go around.
And Makka, not really caring whether he's considered guilty or not, getting that off his chest and kind of putting it on everyone else and saying, like, just kind of trying his best in his, limited way to kind of hold up a mirror, satisfied with what he said, will return to his seat.
And as you do so, Murdoch just kind of, she nods, like thoughtfully, but she's putting on the thoughtful look. She says, that is interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting turn of phrase that my client just used. Tell me, all of you assembled here, we have all benefited from the tremendous, the wondrous, the life-changingly good effects of Endara, have we not? I would be curious, can any of you produce a contract that suggests that Makka was aware of the use of his Glomra-based product for Endara? Because, I gotta tell you, Dennis and I had a little scan through all of those, and I'm pretty sure you didn't. So, as my client suggests, maybe you need to ask yourself if something else is really going on here. And there's a lot of shifty-looking people in the crowd because, nope. And you can feel Duncan and Gwendolyn that the vibe in the room has changed. Much like modern Western society with plastic. I guess people hadn't really thought too much about that, and now they are, and they're kind of horrified. What are you guys kind of muttering to each other throughout Makka's speech and kind of in this moment of like shocked, courtroom drama?
I think there's been a lot of like quiet listening, and then Duncan starts having like a quiet but loud enough that the people around him might be able to hear, in the hopes that what he's saying will spread around. But it's like, well, the Presidentia had to know, as did the First Sword, but Makka didn't know. So how could he have planned to betray them in Orville when they led the mission there? It's almost like he was being duped, and he's being duped again. He's a scape turtle. That's not right, because he's a hero turtle, the one who's here to fix things.
Can you roll me a deception check? Not that what you're saying is untrue, but that the way you have to deliver it is vaguely facetious.
Yes.
So I was thinking of Abe Lincoln in Clone High as part of like Gandhi's weird like medicine show, being like, I agree. Like just popping up from the crowd in different disguises, trying to turn crowd.
That's a 22.
I agree with the dandy. Like people from the crowd are just like very much into this. So feeling all this, Mowgli, for the first time, pulls a handkerchief and just wipes it across his brow. And he says, well, I may just be a
a humble, lenient lawyer. I am unfamiliar with all of this fancy contract law that my opponents seem to be insistent on. That is a matter for the merchants, I say. And whatever arrangements they've made is up to them. I think the real concern here is there was no Jossie before this strange hermit started talking about her. So regardless of whether or not he's put down her cult, a lot of our woes can be traced back to someone who was clearly meddling with something he should not have been. Remember how good things were before Jossie? I do. They were great, and now they're not. And I think that if Presidentia Umos or First Blade Chestnut were here, they would agree with me.
And at that point, Murdoch scratches her nose and says, it's funny you should mention that, champ. And she snaps her fingers. And the door at the back of the courtroom blows open. And you hear the screech of a wheelchair as Chestnut Kell slowly rolls into the courtroom. And there is a gasp from the assorted crowd. And the judge actually just kind of stands up with her jaw dropped. And he, being a wizened, battle-hardened warrior type, just gives her like a quick, like, chill the fuck out. Yeah, I'm alive. Like, fuck off. Hand. And you can see that he is in tremendously bad shape. His shell has clearly shattered. And so he is suspended kind of within the chair at odd angles from various kind of pins and it seems almost that the chair itself is providing the shell for him now. And so he's kind of suspended in it as he wheels forward, and he just says,
"You must pardon the dramatics. But Murdoch insisted that I wait until the appropriate time."
And he kind of like nods to her and rolls forward and says,
"I can collaborate what Deathcap said. We were attacked in Orville. It was not a ploy, at least not by him. We were seeking a way to end the blight. I beg that you consider this man's words carefully. The Presidentia, she thought she could save us, and now she is gone. I fell from the sky. I can no longer fight for us. Yet, this one,"
and he kind of like, as much as he can, raises an arm and points at Makka, and then also at Duncan and Gwendolyn, says,
"This one and his friends are trying to fix this. Trust them. I beg you."
And then he kind of, his face falls, but he says,
"And forgive me again, the dramatics. I was told this was the only way."
And Murdoch is just like doing the full Jack Nicholson in anger management smile and just kind of gesturing around. And like everyone is legitimately touched, and it's wildly out of place. Like she's still not a good lawyer, but this is a good feather in your cap. So the judge bangs the shell again and says,
"Brother, I am glad you are alive, though this was tremendously disrespectful. We will have words about this, and I am telling Mom."
"I'll go to the corner." She points to where Gwendolyn and Duncan are. And finally she swivels on her chair to the jury, and she says,
"You have heard now the case against Makka Deathcap and the case for him. It will be up to you to determine his fate, yes? I trust you are all impartial and have not been swayed by any outside actions."
And she just glowers at everyone. And Wajdi and Darna are cool as cucumbers, but Phaedron is looking hella shifty. And was also nodding pretty profusely when you were like, "I reconnected the sunken archive." So she raises a finger at him and says, "You are excused." And his eyes go wide, and he just says, but I, she says, "You have clearly been influenced. Leave." And sadly, he gets up, and as he goes to exit, he turns to you, Makka, and says, I'm sorry, I tried. At which a hush falls over the crowd, and he leaves.
Can Makka briefly just say something?
Yeah, of course.
Sort of like a idiot savant, this might save him. He will just say,
Who was that?
because Phaedron's entire interaction with us was on the other side of a door, so Makka has no idea who that was.
Well, I was gonna make you roll a deception check, but you are correct. You legitimately don't know.
Yeah.
So everyone, knowing that you've clearly been incapable of telling a lie to this point, unless you were lying about everything, they're just kind of like chuckles, and like you just hear like, you know, the same guy yelled, "I agree with the daddy," be like, "Well, he clearly didn't know what he was talking about." And other people just kind of like turn to him and turn back. But yeah, you've successfully managed to mitigate the damage from that damning statement. Fuck, man, well done.
I don't remember that little detail.
So the judge just nods and says, "As is our way, you will now present your verdict." And she gestures to each of them has sort of a little shelf in front of them with two stones, one that is completely clear and one that is opaque. And she just says, "Choose your verdict and place it in the verdict hat." And like a hat gets brought out. And
what kind of a hat? I'm picturing a top hat right now.
It's
I was not expecting a verdict hat.
No, it is indeed like a deep raggedy top hat, but like of the like steampunk variety. Like it's clearly of like an ancient tortle fashion that is no longer embraced. But much like a lot of weird court rituals, it mattered 100 years ago, so everyone just still does it. So this well-worn, like it's to the point that the brim is like worn down to almost like nothing, and like it's a trash hat, but it's clearly been around a long time. Literally just gets passed down the line, and each
literally a moth flies out. Like
yeah, exactly. And they're like, "Oh, yes, good. The judgment moth has been released." And then everyone puts a stone in, and they pass it to Hazel. Who says, "Yes, and now I shall verify the vote." And she leans down and puts the hat on her head and sits up and like has a think for a second and then nods and then leans down. And weirdly, Ida, this actually smooths over your concern because it turns out the judge did have to verify the thing. So the ritual makes no sense, but I think like just by a pure like checklist of like, oh no, see, judge has an important part. Okay, yes. But she pulls the hat down and says, "The vote has been verified by our most sacred of processes." And then she just scatters them over her podium. And she looks through them, and her eyes kind of narrow, and she kind of looks up at you, Makka. Makka, where do you think this is going to land?
I think he's still pretty low, feeling low, that is, from these revelations, from the vague kind of cowardice of this society to own up to its own crimes and its own shortcomings, things that these people did just for stuff you can't take with you, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think his faith in the fairness of this, that he would be accused to begin with as like, this will solve our problems, is like, it would have been laughable to him if he hadn't realized that he was somewhat implicated because, oh my God, they exploited my God and my method of healing. So he's got no faith in him getting like a fair trial or anything like that. He wanted to just be able to kind of say that piece. And so he thinks he's 100% sure he's going to be guilty and executed.
Cool. Gwendolyn, how do you think this is going to shake out? And Laura, there you go.
Honestly, I think Gwendolyn is like she's just not sure. She's just totally not sure about these people, and so she doesn't. I don't think she really has faith in their system. So she's kind of ready to like throw down and and break Makka out if she has to.
I mean, I know I tend to track these a lot, but like that's such a fucking cool evolution of who Gwendolyn is, that she's gone from like, I'm the Princess of Orville, I must understand the etiquette in order to being like, oh, if I got to break my friend out of court and his country, get to punching. It would seem that Duncan's mentorship has taken root. Duncan,
I'm also, to be clear, I'm also just kind of like pissed at these people for like wasting so much time. All of this.
It is a very Orwellian way to go about these things.
You know what I mean? It's just like, can we just get on with like saving like my people and
world?
Like free and the world? Like, please, you're all an impediment to that. This whole thing is just an impediment to saving everything.
Yeah. Makka would echo those feelings as well.
So
it's like you show up to Rivendell with the ring and they're like, yeah, that's cool, but listen, we're having a local municipal election, and if we can't sort that out,
the ring to rule them all. It is bingo night, so can it wait?
Yeah, Parcheesi's at 9. It's real important to all of us. Ryan, where's Duncan sitting with all this?
Duncan knows in reality Makka's innocent, and based on the evidence that has been presented, Makka should be found innocent, and they rigged the jury a little bit, so Makka should even further be found innocent. He is of the opinion that Makka will be found innocent, or this game is so rigged that everyone involved who is not Makka is guilty, and that's sort of where he's at. So he's pretty sure he'll be fine. If he's not, I mean, he won't like try to fight his way out of here. There's a shitload of turtles, but he'll bust him out of jail or do a very Robin Hood rescue at like the execution
Scarlet
platform.
Pimpernel, like just swoop in at the moment of execution and save.
Yeah, and if you know his dream scenario, if it goes bad, it's just Makka has to go to jail. They'll execute him in a week, and he's got a week to hunt down every fucking crooked asshole in this courtroom to make them confess and get Makka out.
Fair enough.
Did we get our weapons back when we left the jail?
They did not let you carry your weapons into the fucking courtroom to be on the defendant's side.
I don't know.
Oh, yes, haunted suit of armor. Here is your sword. Just don't use it. Honor system. And you're like, yeah, cool. I won't. Stab. No.
Okay, Tom, I get it.
This is good. This is good for you and both of your characters.
Yeah. It's just both of you are walking weapons. I would be so scared for either of you to have like a toothpick at this point. Just imagine who's like Bullseye from Daredevil, just being like, "Oh, I'll kill a motherfucker with a paper cut. Don't worry about it." So
I do have +3 with improvised weapons.
Yeah, you have that, and Gwendolyn is proof that her greatest weapon is throwing her body at people. Like both of you are deadly.
She's the most proficient at falling down of any character in the history of D&D.
Rebuke once a day.
And Makka can summon ghost panthers. Like realistically, none of you are ever not armed.
My arm is my mace that I use now. So
yeah, truly. In any case, so Hazel looks at the stones, and again, her eyes narrow at you, Makka, and she kind of scoops them all up in two massive hands and holds them aloft so that everyone can see. And then she spreads her hands and they begin to fall. And you watch as a clear rain of stones fall from her hands, as the jury has voted unanimously that you are innocent. And she just kind of nods and says, "The hat of judgment does not lie. Makka, Deathcap, this court finds you Then someone clears their throat in a really obnoxiously loud way.
Just as I was celebrating.
And she looks fucking livid. Like this is like her moment. This is the moment of judgment. And she just kind of grumbles, excuse you. This court finds you. And then there's a loud cough, like an obnoxiously loud cough. And she rises a little bit, like up out of her chair, and like her shoulders hunch up, and she just starts scanning the gallery. And she says, you will have respect for this court and for the hat. Or you will face our most hellish rebuke from Second Blade, Tamlin Deepcry, and First Blade. And she like looks to her brother and she's like, and First Blade, Chestnut Kell. Hmm? And then there's a series of coughs. And slowly you watch her face fall as her eyes drop to the pile of bodies in the center of the room, all of which are undulating with hacking coughs. And as the bodies begin to flail about coughing, dark spores begin to expand from their mouths. And in one voice, they say, we find you guilty. And that's when the screaming begins.
This episode of Curse Code and Crowd Sound was mixed and edited by Laura Hamstra, and the campaign was created by Tom McGee. Our original theme music was composed by Landon Knoblock, and Curse Code and Crown's logo was created by the brilliant Decapitated Markers. If you want to follow our players or our DM on Twitter, you can reach out to Laura at EL Hamstring, Ryan at the Ryan LaPlante, Tyler at Tyler_Hewitt, Tom McGee at McGeeTD, or you can message our whole company at Dum Dum Dice. So please join us again for more Curse, Code, and Crown!
Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. Christian Menicola, Long Long, The Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, Charles Grams, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Lord of Bradovic, Noel Lewis, Scott Garland, Anthony Griffin, Chet Awesome Laser, Jordan Neesmith, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Taryn Hefner, Cade Peters, Richard Cranium, Christian Mendez, Anna Zed, Eric Williams, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Great Dane, Acrix, Cameron Ezel, Grandma Likes D&D, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.